What if the difference between a good retirement and a great retirement was not how much you saved, but how you structured your income? In today's video, I'm walking you through a real-life inspired case study using hypothetical names to protect privacy of a couple I'll call Mr. and Mrs. Back Nine Blueprint. Mr. Back Nine Blueprint is already retired and collecting Social Security, and Mrs. Back Nine Blueprint is planning to retire soon with her own benefit coming in the near future. Between cash, Roth accounts, non-qualified investments, and retirement accounts, they've done a great job saving. Right around the position we see many retirees and retirees in. But here's where things get started. Without coordinated planning, they were projected to generate about $6,150 per month of after-tax income in their first year of retirement, with a median ending portfolio of around $870,000. Solid, but not fully optimized. By coordinating their asset allocation, Social Security timing, tax strategy, and retirement income plan, we were able to improve their outcome to approximately $7,450 per month of after-tax income, while also increasing their projected median ending portfolio to over $1.4 million. That's about $1,300 per month more income and about $500,000 more projected legacy value at the end of their lives. Pretty big difference. Now, importantly, this was not about timing the market and trying to pick the right stocks at the right time. It was about structuring their plan more intentionally. Because the reality is, most portfolios are not built for retirement income. They're simply carried over from however they were invested while you were working, or in some default portfolio like a 60/40 portfolio because it's the most common. Most people don't actually know why their money's invested the way it is or have any intentional strategy behind it. And if they do, hopefully it's intentional for retirement income and not carried over to the accumulation phase. All right, so now, before we go further, this is a hypothetical case study for educational purposes only. It is not personalized financial advice, and individual results will vary. But what I want to show you is the framework behind how better coordination can lead to better outcomes. With that, I'm going to share my screen and we can jump into Money Not Math episode 189. All right, so my screen should be shared. Everyone should see what I'm doing now. If you're listening to the podcast, I'll do my best to highlight it well enough what I'm doing so you still get value. So here we are. Their net worth is 960,000. They have $800,000 in 401ks or other tech or IRAs. They have $100,000 in non-qualified investment accounts, and they have $60,000 in Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks. They have no major debts worth speaking of, so that's huge. Their goal is to, like I said, the male is already retired. The female will be retiring in the near future. And their retirement expense goal was to have $8,000 per month of after-tax income. And we're just going to assume they're going to each have 3 years of long-term care at the end of their lives, which currently is averaging about $80,000 a year for in-home care, but that will only continue to skyrocket. As far as income goes, the male is taking in about $1,700 per month Social Security, and the female's full retirement Social Security is about $2,800. And so we're not going to assume any additional savings, expenses, or anything too wonky because every situation is different. So I want to keep this as general, but also impactful as possible. I don't want to get too into the weeds with things that would impact everyone's individual situation, like family situations, inheritances, and things like that. So coming over, we look at, all right, their goal was to have $8,000 per month. Unfortunately, ignore the left side here. They only have about a 22% probability of success and is $0 projected remaining when they pass away with no additional planning. Okay, so if they move forward with $8,000 per month, just because that's what they wanted to do and they're just hoping for the best and it is what it is. Unfortunately, the last time I saw it said I saw 75% of people who enter retirement do not have a plan. And even for these people, when they came to me, I asked, they have Social Security on and they're already withdrawing some money from the male's retirements. I said, so how did you come up with those numbers? They just picked something. They weren't really sure. They turned on Social Security because they could, and they picked a number because they could, but they didn't really have a plan. So if in this hypothetical situation, they just turned on $8,000 per month of after-tax income because that's what they wanted, and they just hoped the best. This is saying they have about a 22% probability of success, and they are projected to have $0 remaining when they pass away to leave behind or donate or whatever they choose. Okay, so then obviously that's not acceptable. We always are trying to hit 80% probability of success for most of our clients. Some are more aggressive, some are more conservative, but generally we aim for 80% probability of success because 100% probability of success probably means we're being too safe, probably could enjoy retirement a little bit more, don't need to white knuckle our steering wheels too much. And if we get below 70% probability of success, that's getting a little too aggressive for most people in most situations to potentially running out of money before we run out of breath, which is absolutely not the intention behind good retirement planning. So, what we can do is we can look at, all right, first step, how much can they take with no additional strategies, no additional optimization, no social security planning, nothing, just what could they take with no additional planning to give them an 80% probability of success? And that's what I'm going to show you here is they could take about $6,150 per month of after-tax income rather than the goal of 8,000. The good news is their bare minimum was $3,000 per month to survive. Their goal was 8,000. So, good news, they can get 6,150. If that's all they want, wipe their hands clean, walk out of my office from our free consultation and go on their merry way on their own. But if they aren't content with just 6,150 bare minimum easy goes on their own and they want to maximize or optimize their plan and hand off the work to someone who like myself who does it every day so they can just go enjoy their retirement and not have to worry about this stuff, that's where the next step of the conversation goes. It's like, okay, this is what you could do, but what if we were to optimize your asset allocation, social security, tax strategy, and glide path planning and retirement spending planning? What could that look like? So I'm going to move the proposed plan to the right, which is just the no additional planning. What could they do to have 80% probability of success? I'm going to pull up what the proposed plan could look like with additional planning. All right, so here the 80% we've kept consistent, but without showing you what I did, you'll notice the median ending portfolio jumped from 870,000 to 1.4 million. Now keep in mind, I did not add a single dollar to their plan. I just simply repositioned or strategized or allocated what they had in more efficient ways. And if you're interested, we'll jump into how I did that now. So, in addition to increasing their median ending portfolio from 870,000 to 1.4 million, we also were able to increase their monthly retirement income after taxes from $6,150 to $7,450. That's $1,300 more per month and over $500,000 more at the end of their lives. Massive impact by just being intentional with their plan. All right, so here's how we did that, and it's a lot more in depth with each individual, like actual people with actual families and wants and wishes and situations. But generally, let me show you kind of what the process is that we walk through to get there. First, asset allocation. All right, so the most default a retirement portfolio that I've ever heard of or seen in others is the 60-40. 60% stocks, 40% equities on day one, and then either hold that or slightly decrease the equities and increase the bonds and cash as you get older to avoid volatility, right? We hear so often from the news that market volatility is like the worst thing in the world for your retirement. However, I'm here to tell you that if you plan properly for it, it's actually your biggest opportunity in retirement to fight inflation. All right. So here's what I mean by that. If you just stick with a very basic, moderate 60-40 portfolio, here, I'll reset all this so I started you at the end. Now we'll start from the beginning and I'll show you how I got there. Okay. So 60-40 portfolio, if you listen to the news and you listen to your short-term fears of market volatility and you go into retirement saying, I just want to preserve my portfolio. I don't want a lot of market volatility risk. So I'm going to go in a preservation portfolio, which is 20% equities, 80% bonds and cash. What's that do? That drops our probability of success and median ending portfolio a lot. The wrong direction. We don't want that, right? So, shocking. I know, seriously, this is weird to think about when you've been told your entire life that market volatility is your biggest risk. Inflation is actually probably your biggest risk if you live a long time in retirement, as long as you plan properly for market volatility. We can't just ignore it, okay? So, preservation, not going to work to help them get to their goal. On the flip side, what if we go with the most aggressive portfolio, which is like 90% stocks, 10% bonds and cash? Boom, huge improvement. Probability of success goes up by 7%. Median ending portfolio goes up by 900,000. But here's where logic or efficiency versus human nature comes in. To have 90% of your money in equities and 10% in bonds and cash, though efficient, it's very unlikely for most people. That would be you're very dependent on sequence of returns, and you're really hopeful that we don't have more than like a 1 or 2 year correction early on in retirement. So for most people, that's a little high on the risk side. So rather than assuming the two dramatics on the risk or non-risk side, let's just slightly bump up from a moderate to a growth in this situation. So that's going to get them to about 70% equities, 30% bonds, fixed income, and cash. So that's going to have a nice little bump of probability of success from 80% to 83. Next up, we have Social Security. Oh, actually, second, I don't know why this isn't showing. Sorry. We have our glide path. All right, I talked a lot about this in our last video, so I'm not going to get too in the weeds on this here. But generally speaking, a glide path is like if you've ever invested in a target date fund through your 401k, when you're young and you're far away from retirement, they assume, hey, they're young, they got a lot of time. Market volatility doesn't matter that much. Let's go 90+% in equities and 10% or less in bonds or fixed income or cash. But then as you near retirement, your equity exposure comes down to about 50-50 at retirement, depending on what company you're at and how it's allocated. 50% stocks, 50% bonds and cash at retirement. And then through retirement, it continues to go down. So you might be passing away with 20% stocks and 80% fixed income, depending on how that works. Whereas we believe that rather than just slowly decreasing equities and increasing fixed income for no apparent reason other than your age, let's be more intentional about maximizing your growth potential while you're working, building an income reserve to account for market volatility rather than being scared of it, and then fighting inflation with the rest. So if we switch to a five-stone strategy when it comes to how you allocate your assets through retirement, we're going to see that probability of success now up to 87%, from 83 to 87 from that one small shift. Next, here I'll do a quick glide path so you guys can get a better idea of what I'm saying in case you didn't see my last video. So a five-stone strategy, you can see more consistency. We're going to be more intentional about where your money is at and why. A default glide path you're seeing in the equities is the blue. They're just constantly decreasing. Just because you're older, you should own less equities. Because you're older, you should care less about inflation, is basically what they're saying. Unfortunately, we don't know what day you're going to pass away, and healthcare costs are only skyrocketing. So just decreasing equity ownership because you're older, in my opinion, is not a good enough reason. We got to be intentional about what we're fighting against and what risks we have to be aware of versus insulated against versus are out of our control. Okay, so that's kind of a general, very, very general introduction or visual example between the difference of just a default glide path where we just decrease because versus being intentional about building income reserve, allocate to equities to fight inflation, and massage the difference and what makes sense for each situation. Okay. So, Social Security, what does that look like? If we optimize it, and this one's interesting, if we go optimal Social Security for these people, and we only look at Social Security in a nutshell of how can we get the most Social Security benefits out of of the IRS for them, we can get the probability of success up to 89% and 1.7 million median ending portfolio. But sometimes maximizing or optimizing one strategy can actually hurt the overall plan. So we always have to look at how do we maximize a single strategy and how does that strategy impact the overall plan. So what I mean by that is the optimal Social Security strategy would be Mr. Back Nine taking Social Security at age 62 because he already turned it on, and Mrs. Back Nine turning on at age 70 to maximize her benefit so that whether she passes away or he passes away first, the bigger benefit sticks around. Okay. But that puts a drain on their retirement portfolio to bridge the gap before she turns on her Social Security. So that's where you see this 89%, 1.7 million. Now, if we go down and check the current strategy, which would be he's already turned on at age 62, she turns it on at full retirement of age 67. Now we see 87% and 1.8 million, right? So that made a difference. Would you rather have a lower probability of success in 1.8 million? Probably not, right? So in that case, optimizing Social Security helped. So, but it doesn't always help. Okay. So I just want to make sure I point that out to you. Or we could go, I know with these people and other people have talked about what happens if Social Security goes bankrupt. I just want to turn on as early as possible just to make sure I get something in case the government makes Social Security go away. I'm not saying it will. That's a concern I hear often. Okay, what if we go as early as possible? Now we drop down to 86% and about 1.8 million. So their legacy or median ending portfolio went up because they turned their Social Security on early and decreased the stress on the retirement portfolio early. But their probability of success long term went down because now they're way more dependent on retirement portfolio later instead of a larger Social Security benefit. Okay. So there's always a give and take in what the decisions we make. From a tax strategy standpoint, if we switch, I'm going to bring this back to our optimal. From a tax strategy standpoint, if we use a proposed strategy, right, let's baseline our brains here. We're at 89%, 1.7 million. If we do a proposed tax strategy of utilizing Roth conversions from time to time, that increases our probability of success and our median ending portfolio by 300,000. Why not? To get a better idea of what that looks like. In this example, you're saving about $203,000. You're having about 203,000 more in ending assets and paying 85,000 less dollars in taxes to the IRS. Not a bad deal by just being a little intentional with Roth conversions. And last but not least, we can switch from inflation adjusted spending in retirement, which just says, what can we spend year one? Let's adjust for inflation each year, to a retirement spending model, a SMILE model that we like to use because it more closely reflects the statistics out there we've studied and the client experiences we've seen with our clients over the last 15 plus years that most people early in retirement are excited. The youngest they'll ever be in retirement, spend more, travel more, and do the things. As they age, they slow down and spending slows down too, and they age some more and health expenses kick in, and expenses skyrocket. So that's where retirement spending SMILE comes in. And now, by playing with these 5 triggers, we've brought their probability of success from 80% up to 96%, and their median ending portfolio from 870,000 to 2.47 million. If they keep their income the same, that's a massive difference. That's about a $1.5 million difference in value with the same money going in by being intentional about the decisions we make along the way. Or, as I showed you when we started out, we could just go back to, we could increase their retirement income rather than just keeping it the same and having larger legacy. So that would be these clients' hypothetical choice of, okay, I know you asked for 8,000 a month. We can't quite do that. We can definitely do 6,150. And we can actually make some tweaks to improve that $6,150 per month to either $7,450 per month, $1,300 per more, or we can keep the $6,150 per month and massively increase your legacy. So there's so many different choices that can be made that have a massive impact in your short, medium, and long-term experience, as well as the legacy that you leave behind. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If there's one takeaway from this case study, it's this. Retirement is not just about building wealth. It's about turning that wealth into income efficiently. Sorry, it's tough to say. It's about turning that wealth into income efficiently. Mr. and Mrs. Back Nine Blueprint did not drastically change their lives, their savings, or take unnecessary risks. They simply moved from a default approach to a more intentional strategy. And this is where many people unknowingly fall short. They've done a great job saving, but no one has shown them how to optimize the income phase of retirement. If you're within about 5 years of retirement or already retired and you've saved a few $100,000 or more, it's worth asking yourself, am I structuring my income in the most tax efficient way? Am I making the right Social Security decisions? Is my portfolio actually designed for retirement income, not just growth? Is my portfolio designed to last the whole retirement and have a legacy? These are all very important questions, and there's many, many more out there. If those are questions you've been thinking of, we offer a complimentary retirement income review where we help identify opportunities to improve income, reduce inefficiencies, and bring clarity to your plan, just like what you saw in this example today. Just reach out, and I would be happy to set aside some time to chat. Again, this example is for educational purposes only and does not represent specific recommendations, but it should give you a clearer picture of what's possible with the right strategy in place. If you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. We break down real retirement strategies like this every week to help you retire with confidence and clarity. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.